Welcome to the Startup Grind.
All right, everybody. Thank you for coming to the last Startup Grind of 2014. I really appreciate you being here. Real quick, thank you to our sponsors, AMDG, for bringing the delicious craft beer, or else you'd be stuck drinking Blue Light and Pop. So thanks, Matt. And Nickel City Graphics, Neil Carroll, you do a great job with the video. I really appreciate it. Dig, thank you for hosting us in this wonderful spot. Jessica Edwards, real quick, if you don't know what Dig is, she'll let you know.
Evening, everyone. I just want to say thank you so much for coming down. Dig is Design Innovation Garage. It's one of the newer co-working startup business incubators in Buffalo. If you have any questions, please let me know. Other than that, enjoy Startup Grind with Jordan Levy.
Real quick, I wanted to reflect on 2014. Honestly, this is here because John Spitz went to one in Toronto, said this is a cool organization we should have in Buffalo. I was on LinkedIn late at night, drank a couple beers, saw his post, and I said, you know what, sounds cool. So I wanted to thank our team. Peter Semino, you do a great job with the pictures. Jess Edwards, always a gracious host. Dave, Kelly, new team members, Markel, people that are just interested in making Buffalo better. Liz Callahan, don't believe is here. The team at Algonquin, David Zemecki, Stephen Rains, Stephen Kernan. I might be the beauty behind the operation, but you guys really are the brains. I appreciate what you do. And this is exclusive. 2015 speakers. We have a really kick-ass first 6 months of speakers lined up. You guys are the first ones to know about it. 2015 speakers. Our first is Rohini Srihari. She was going to be the speaker in October. She just sold her company, proving that you can be a successful tech entrepreneur in Buffalo. That's January. February, the beautiful Marnie Levine, launched New York, who also has a very interesting career working with startups. March, Adrian Dayton, social media consultant, lawyer. He raised $400,000. He has 10 of the nation's largest law firms using his software. He's in the midst of another successful fundraising round. Really cool stuff happening with Adrian. Niall Wallace is a Toronto entrepreneur, moving his company to Buffalo to launch in the States. His company is software. It's like 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon, but for tracking infectious diseases. So very cool how Toronto's looking to Buffalo now. Anthony Johnson, Empire Genomics. They've raised money. They're doing really groundbreaking stuff in the biotech, life sciences, BNMC, a lot going on there. And then winner of the 43 North competition, tentatively ASI, if not one of the other 43 North winners, because they are all winners and they all have a great story. So speaking of 43 North, a man who knows a little something about 43 North. Just gonna
Library.
all right. Is that Mark Zuckerberg calling you?
If he was, I would be walking out and taking the call.
Fair enough, fair enough. All right. Jordan Levy. I don't know, you got a quite impressive background. General partner at Softbank Capital, managing partner of Seed Capital, an early stage venture capital fund, proud of co-founding Seed Capital Partners, co-founder of Client Logic, president, co-CEO, co-chair, Softbank Services, senior vice president of software, etc., now GameStop, co-founder of Software Distribution Services, now known as Ingram Micro. Serves on boards of several technology companies, first non-native American on the board of Seneca Holdings. He's been the chair of the Erie Canal Harbor Development Corporation, co-managing partner of a little thing called Z80 that you might have heard of, and also director, 43 North, something of 43 North. The man behind the curtain for 43 North. Jordan Levy. He's got some slides he's going to show us, and then we're going to get to the startup ground.
I want to show you. I'm going to show you some slides that that I have that I just want everyone to see because I think it tells a great story. And then Evan's gonna just ask me a bunch of questions, and you're welcome to ask them too. But before I start, by the way, I'd like to thank everyone for coming out on this actually beautiful winter night in Buffalo, New York. We're just about to start having longer days in a couple days. That's a good thing. We all look forward to when the days get longer versus shorter. But before I start, I have to tell you, I came, I don't know, some of you probably were there, just came from the opening of the canals down at Canal Site. And, you know, it's near and dear to my heart. 6 years ago, we got involved in trying to rebuild our waterfront. And today, as Matt Davis is here, Matt was involved with me from the beginning, we had this vision, and, you know, we had to do a pivot, just very much like every startup that we get involved in. You have to change plans, and we had to. But today we opened up these historic canals. And I gotta tell you, besides the fact that I was freezing, so that's one of the reasons it sent a chill down my spine, it really did send a chill down my spine. There were thousands of people, young people, kids, not, you know, the millennials that like to want to live and hang out downtown. There were families by the hundreds. My assistants both they live in Concord or something. Where do they live in? Huh? Marilla. They went home and they got their kids and came back. They've never brought their kids downtown. And it made me very happy and very proud that something like that took a long time to do is having the impact that it was designed to do. And I think what all of you are doing in this room and changing attitudes, changing the culture, changing the reality of what Buffalo is, adding with the medical corridor and adding Canal Side and adding the university and adding all these organizations. It really is something that I hope you're all very proud of, because everyone that's in this room is obviously in this ecosystem and making those kinds of impacts that are making a difference. And it's being noticed. And I want to show you these slides for that reason. Several months ago, it wasn't that long ago, but I got a phone call, I think in September, from the secretary to the governor of the state of Delaware. I answered the phone and he said, we would like you to come and keynote a tech conference that the governor is sponsoring in Wilmington, in whatever date it was, to talk to our tech community and our business community about the renaissance of Buffalo and the tech and startup ecosystem that has changed so dramatically. I said, where do you get this from? And he said, oh, well, we've been hearing and reading about this. And the governor said, if they can do this in Buffalo, we certainly can do it in Wilmington. And I sort of had to agree with him, but I wasn't going to tell him that. But so I was pretty surprised, and I went down to Delaware, and I gave this presentation to these folks. And I wanted to show you a little bit what I talked about, because I think it'll all give you guys a good foundation for what's happening. And I tell that dreams can come true because, you know, when Ron Schreiber and I started doing this back in 1982, there was nothing in our ecosystem, nothing. As a matter of fact, when we went to raise money, everybody said, we'd give you money if you'd leave. And we decided not to leave. The second company, Mike Moritz, who is among the most famous venture capitalists in the history of the industry, he ran Sequoia. He gave us a term sheet, and then he gave us a check and said, I'll pay for the reload. And we said no, and we often calculate how much money that probably cost us. But we stayed in Buffalo, and we're glad we did. Anyways, when we first started, there was no one. Now there's all of you and a lot more. But I wanted to sort of give you a little history. So, you know, you go back and you know, we started talking about the medical campus and the development of the campus and what's going to happen here. And we're on this campus now, and Tom Beecher was really the pioneer in that happening. And you know, here's sort of what it looks like today. You can see how, you know, what the changes that were taking place at the campus, and now, you know, UB coming downtown, and Kaleida and Children's Hospital, and, you know, cluster. It's about clustering. And then, you know, this is what we announced, these things that open today. It didn't quite look like that, but it's pretty close. And this was, you know, when we started to talk about when we announced that we were going to realign the historic canals and rebuild the inner harbor. And, you know, then we went and talked a little bit about, you know, the companies. And the fact is that you can be in Buffalo. And in spite of the fact that our stock is not doing as well as we had hoped at Synacor, we still employ 300 people in Buffalo. We still have a business that I think that the street says will do about $100 million in revenue, and it's still a real company. And of course, Liaison, great campus labs, and others getting sold, which means you can start a business here and it can succeed. We started, you know, I got a picture of Dig down here, co-working space. We started Z80 Labs. Dan Mandrzejewski, who was our executive director. He's decided to go to the dark side and become an entrepreneur again. But we started this incubator, and the truth of the matter is we did it for one reason. You know, I got tired of, you know, talking to my friends in the business community and about everybody leaving, about, you know, everybody's kids is gone. My 2 kids both live in New York. They don't live in Buffalo. And everybody talking about this brain drain and this outflow and all the stuff that goes on. And then I hear these come to Synacor, Ron Frankel saying to me, you know, well, we can't keep growing in Buffalo. We have no talent. We can't get any of the talent. We're outgrowing this community. And everybody telling me everything wrong. And I said, fuck it. I'm not doing that anymore. I said, I'm going to do an incubator. And Ronnie looked at me and said, you're out of your mind? I said, no. We're going to do this incubator, and we're going to draw a line in the sand, and we're going to, this is our contribution. We're not going to make money. It's not to make money. It's really to go and try to change attitudes and cluster and do the things that are required in order to make something different. So we got this idea, and nobody knows. Does anybody know what Z80 means? Nobody knows. Yeah, it's in 1982, the #1 selling product in Microsoft was a Z80 card. We were a Microsoft distributor. Ingram Micro was SDS then. And it was the #1 selling Microsoft product, 1982. It was a Z80 card. Remember what it did? It allowed CPM machines to run Apple software products. So it allowed Apple software to run CPM, Apple IIs to run CPM software. And so we sold a lot of these things. And I'm coming up with a name. It kind of Z80 is kind of cool. Nobody knows what it is, so it gives me a little edge on everybody. But, you know, so we did this thing, and we got, you know, we started this, and it's worked. It created, I see a lot of people in the room, and it created an attitude all of a sudden that people together could make things happen. So we're pretty proud of it. Then, you know, this is New York State Venture Fund and the Innovate New York program, which was $45 million. Governor gave me $5.2 million. We've been putting it out in the community. I see a lot of people here that have gotten that money, and there's more to come. And then the governor got, you know, decided to adopt Buffalo. I think he did more than adopt Buffalo, to be perfectly honest with you. I mean, you know, if they were here writing my script, I would have to use his name every 3rd word. Is anybody here from the governor? No, they're all at Canal Side taking credit for that. But when we had the 43 North finals, they took the night of this finals, just 15 minutes before, they gave me a new script. And they had a new script, and his name was like every sentence. It was like, Governor, thank you, Governor, thank you, Governor. But I have to tell you something. There's been no politician in the history of this city that has actually done more for this community than this guy. I don't know why. I can't tell you. I think it's probably something to do with Carl Palladino, so that's one good thing that he's done for us. But the truth is, this guy's adopted us, and he's put his money where his mouth is, and he did it on his own. He made a decision himself. I have a lot of friends in politics, and the day he announced this, they had no idea. My close friend is the Speaker of the Assembly, and he looked at me after, he says, where's his money coming from? He found it. And he did this, and what it's done has changed everything. And it has changed everything. This money, then this Innovate program, and the tax-free New York, and you know, all these things has just done amazing things for Western New York. We got a lot of resources. Marty, you helped me put this one together. There's a whole lot, there's a resource guide. I think we identified 30-some-odd organizations that are all involved in helping startups of different kinds here in Western New York. Doesn't exist elsewhere. Yahoo, big thing. People don't think about it. Yeah, we paid a lot of money for it. But what it did is it told everyone in the world, we can come to Buffalo. In this case, it's Western New York. What's the difference? And it changed outside attitudes. I get it. I mean, trust me, I have friends on the board of Yahoo. They said, why are we doing this in Buffalo? Maybe we should come up and see what's going on there. And it just put us on the map and changed people's attitudes differently. IBM, 500 new jobs in the Key Center. 500 engineers. Engineers. I don't have to tell you about Riverbend. Elon Musk called me after they bought Silvo. I happen to know him a little bit. And he called me and he said to me, and along with Lyndon Reeve, who runs Solar City, and they said, Jordy, can you guys deliver 5,000 jobs? I said, well, it depends what kind of jobs. And they said to me, well, we need 5,000 engineering jobs. I said, no, we can't. I said, over time we can, but today we could not deliver the jobs you need. I said, but here's how we can deliver those jobs. And we spent about 20 minutes, and I took them down the New York State Thruway. Because it starts here, it goes to RPI, and then if you decide to cross the border, and you can go to Waterloo. And if we decide that we regionalize this thing, yes, we can deliver 5,000 engineering jobs. Good, great engineering jobs. And anybody that lives anywhere in that area isn't worried about our weather. It's a factor. It's hard to get somebody from California to move to Buffalo, but it's hard to get them to move to Toronto. It's hard to get them to move to Albany. It's hard to get them to move to Pittsburgh, right? But those people, they went to school at Cornell. They got bad weather. They don't care. That's not what they do it. They're used to it. They love it. They embraced it, okay? So I said, yes, we can. They agreed on 3,000 jobs, but the fact of the matter is they're going to change the landscape in a major way, and hopefully we can deliver. So this investment is massive. They're investing $5 billion. The state's investing $750. It's all in infrastructure. And when Riverbend is built, you guys are going to be so damn proud. It really is amazing. Startup weekend, you guys, a lot of people here involved. Huge success. We've done great work with this thing. It's tremendous. 43 North, I think, was sort of the topping on the cake. It was a program that really, I have to say, it did change perceptions. $5 million, big deal. It's great for the winners, but for us, we couldn't have paid $50 million for what we got out of it. This is some of the press that we got all over the country. It was unbelievable. You guys all know the outcome, 7,000 applications, 96 countries. Think about that, 7,000 people from 96 countries around the world knew that if they win, they're moving to Buffalo to do their startup. Do you really think 5 years ago people would have said that? You would have even thought it would be possible? But that's what happened. We had some amazing judges. These people never come to Buffalo. I couldn't, and I got them to come, and they came, and if you read what Randall Lane wrote, you read about the renaissance of what everything you guys are involved in. We obviously got amazing support, and the fact of the matter is the thing that was most important to me is this one on the left. When the news did an editorial on Monday saying it wasn't about the ASI, it wasn't about the 11 companies that won, we won. Because we really did change everyone's attitude. 1,600 people came downtown to watch the finals, to watch us give away checks, to watch a bunch of yo-yo politicians go up there and speak. But they came to see it because they wanted to be a part of it. It was remarkable. So I wanted to show you this. I gave this presentation down in Wilmington, Delaware, and they were blown away. They were blown away that we actually did this. We have changed this city, this community, and it's because of all of you and everyone willing to step up and do something to say no more. And that's what we're here to do. Thank you. So one last thing before Evan asks me some questions, and I'm happy to answer anybody's questions. It is about attitudes. Some of you may have heard me say this before because I've given this little speech before. We have to change attitudes here. We'll go out and we'll drive from here, and some of us will drive down Elmwood Avenue, right? And we'll look and say, somebody opens opening another pizza parlor. And you'll all look and say, like a hole in the head, we need another pizza parlor. In Silicon Valley, you know what they would say? There's an entrepreneur. they would go and support that guy just because there's an entrepreneur. Somebody else opens up another beauty parlor, and you say, just what we need, there's one on every corner. No, that's another entrepreneur that's trying to go and change his or her life and be their own boss. And we would look at it and put our nose down. And we have to change that way of thinking. I tell this story. I'm hiking the mountain in Aspen, Colorado. Must have been 4 years ago. Matt's probably heard this one before. But about 4 years ago, I'm hiking a mountain. We'll start walking. I ran into some guy. We start talking. We're walking. The next thing you know, one thing leads to another. Don't ask me how. And this is what do you do? I'm in the venture capital. Oh, what firm? Softbank. You invested in my company. And I said, what are you talking about? He starts to tell me. So we get in this conversation, and he says to me, well, I'm a 4-time entrepreneur. Really? We invested, we did, what company? So we lost our money. He says, oh yeah, that wasn't a good one. And I said, well, tell me about your career. And he tells me the first one, and it raised all this money, and you guys screwed it up. We screwed that one up. And we lost about 20 million bucks. I said, okay. He started another company, raised 8 million bucks, then he raised another 10, another 20. And that thing turned out, he got everybody 20 cents in the dollar back. Third company, started. Raised the money, lost it. Started his 4th company. So I went through who his investors were, we talked. This guy was like the happiest guy in the world, he's got his 4th startup. So I got it down the mountain, and he goes, and immediately get my cell phone out. And I had to call one of the VCs that was in his deal. And I called him up, it was Ray Rothrock from Fenrock, one of the best firms in the country. And I said, Ray, what can you tell me about Kelly? Oh, Kelly's unbelievable. He's an amazing entrepreneur. Oh, he's phenomenal. I said, I'm thinking to myself, you just lost your money in every one of the deals he's doing. No, that's not the way they look at it. They look at that guy like he's a stud. He's a superstar because he's got the courage each time he raises the money, he starts a business. They don't know work. Comes with the territory. The fact of the matter is, he is looked upon with reverence in Silicon Valley. We look at somebody that had a failure and what happens, what's the attitude. We look at that guy, that person's a loser, that person's got a stigma. They celebrate it out there, and that's what we have to change. When we start changing that for the guy that starts the pizza parlor, for the woman that opens the beauty parlor, for the lawyer that decides to hang out a shingle instead of go to work at Hudson Ross, we need to celebrate those entrepreneurs. And when we do that, it will change the way we treat.
Well, that was awesome. I'm gonna keep it short because nobody wants to hear me talk. I gotta know. This is a personal question. Why did you stay? You said you stayed. You had relocation check. It was gonna be all this money. Why?
You know, it's a question that we ask ourselves a lot, to be honest with you. We stayed because this was home. You know, I mean, I got to be honest with you. I don't. Most people that know me know my office is in New York City. I don't really have an office here. I hang out with Dan, and at Z80, and he prefers I'm not there because then they can use my cube. Because this is home. You know, and my wife is a transplanter. She's a Buffalonian by choice, and I always wanted to start a campaign for people that were Buffalonian by choice to wear the pins because they're like more zealot than the Buffalonians because they made a decision to be here. Now, God damn it, I'm gonna make it be successful. So, you know, family, love, this is home. And so, you know, we just always thought, you know what, we don't care. Now, I have to say it probably did financially hurt us. We overcame it. I mean, you know, nobody here is probably crying for us, but it probably didn't. We probably didn't achieve the maximum that we might have been able to achieve. But this was home. We love it here. This is like a great place to live, and I think that we always wanted to make a difference. And you know, I'm in New York, and you know, everybody solicits you to get involved, to do this or that. I did one thing in New York, but you know, you're a pimple on an elephant's rear end in New York. I mean, and here we can make a difference. We can change people's lives. We can do a canal site. We can do a 43 North. We can do a Z80. We can start companies. I think I said Joe McCann. Joe, where are you? you know, we worked together, you know, 30 years ago. Tomorrow, I'm going to Ingram Micro. They invited me because they called me up and they said, we want you to come and see what we have here. And the guy that runs it said, well, we know the only reason we're here is because of you and Ronnie, because Ingram Micro never would have been in Buffalo. You know, that's, you can make a difference, and that made us happy and proud, and so, you know, we're okay. We love it here.
Awesome. Talk about execution and how entrepreneurs or people that keep coming up with ideas, how do you turn that idea into a business, to a successful business? How do you execute?
It's hard. You know, the success rate is not as bad as people think it is, by the way. It's very hard to build a company. You know, it takes a lot of luck, but you know, you have to be smart and you have to be willing to adapt, and you got to decide, you know, that, you know, the exceptions, the Bill Gateses and the Mark Zuckerbergs and the Sergey Brins are exceptions, and the Elon Musks, they are the smartest guys in the room. You have to realize you're not the smartest guy in the room, and, you know, hopefully other people that can give you advice and direction, and you are willing to adapt and change and modify and do the things you got to do. It's, you know, because it's going to change. I mean, I look at our most successful exits in the venture business, and Buddy Media was one of them. And Buddy Media started out as an ad agency for Facebook and ended up as a SaaS software platform. We sold it for $800 million. You know, we had about $4 million in the company, owned 21% of it. That was a pretty good investment, but it didn't start off with what it was. It changed. What the constant in our great companies, BuzzFeed started off quite different than it was. It's a spin out of Huffington Post. It's now probably the most valuable investment I've ever made. The constant in these ones is the CEO, the founders are brilliant. They're great. I have to tell you right now, it is about the founder. The founder has to be brilliant. They have to be passionate. They have to be committed. They have to be smart enough to do those things I said. But the constant in all of those is that. And it doesn't mean that we've not had great CEOs, talented people that we didn't fail with. We fail, unfortunately, more than we would like to. Flawed ideas are often the case. But I don't invest in. I was going to say, we've invested $700 million since 2005 in companies based in New York State, none of them in Buffalo, Rochester, Syracuse, Albany. Matter of fact, all $700 million were either in Brooklyn or Manhattan. And it makes, that doesn't make me happy, by the way, because I come home and I look at every company, but we've, now with Z80 and now with Dig and now with stuff that Rand has been really very good, and what Marnie's doing, and Keith, of course, has been very prolific in supporting people. It's changing, and so hopefully we'll change the way. But it really is all about the entrepreneur being great. And that's what we invest in. I look at ideas. I mean, we just did a deal that I got to be honest with, I didn't really like. Toronto, some guys in Toronto that were going to move to New York. I didn't really like the deal, but I loved the team. Loved the team. And the under-over, I made an under-over that within 12 months they'll be doing something different. But they'll still have our money and we'll be part of whatever they do that's different. But I don't think the business that they're doing makes any sense at all, but I think they're phenomenal. So, you know, that's the constant. And I would tell you, you know, if you're going to lead, you better know what you're doing, because otherwise you're going to go down. And raising money is absolutely critical to what you guys do, and it's hard enough to raise money. It's even harder to raise money being in Buffalo. It's just reality. Not any different than if you were in Columbus or Cleveland or St. Louis. You know, I mean, I have another presentation. I show a bunch of slides of people. And you don't know who they are until I tell you. And they grew and started businesses that you know in places like Canton, Ohio, and Detroit, and Las Vegas, and other places, and the constant is these people are just really, they're fantastic, and you can do it anywhere. It just gets harder when you're not in Silicon Valley or New York. Maybe you could say Austin. I went to Toronto for the startup grind thing Matt set it up for me, And I spoke to 150 entrepreneurs in downtown Toronto, and all they did was complain about the fact there's no startup capital. It's Toronto. Was it the 5th largest metropolitan area in North America? All they did for an hour was complain that there's no startup line. I said, and by the way, there was $5 million waiting for you 45 miles from here. And this one little girl, she stood over there. I applied. She was a semifinalist. She actually is a finalist. She's moving here, and in a couple of weeks, she ended up winning. But I said, you know, there's $5 million waiting for you. Just come on down. And they all said, we'll come. I said, well, why didn't you apply? Next year we'll apply. They complained. Amazing. They couldn't believe it. There's no money there. So we're not different than anybody else. We are the same. There's no money. The same in every place. Because you know what? It's like, what was it? Was it Dillinger, I think it was? They asked him, or Willie Sutton, why do you rob banks? Because that's where the money is. They stay in Silicon Valley. I can't get them to go. I saw Chris Dixon last night who did the BuzzFeed holiday party. And he's a partner at Andreessen Horowitz. And I said, you know, how do you like living in California? He said, hate it. But I never have to leave to do a deal. You know, so that's where they're there. Because in New York, same thing. The ecosystem's so strong. It's so strong there. And I lived through the ups and downs. I mean, it was Silicon. They call it Silicon Alley. Let me tell you something. It was Naked Alley. There was nothing going on there. We were dying. We were just dying. Everybody was dying. There wasn't anything going on. And it transformed in 2008, and it came back, and now it's like a juggernaut. It's a juggernaut. But those are the two exceptions in the United States. Other than that, everybody's in the same boat. We did an investment on Orlando this year. We put we put $18 million in a company there. And I was in Miami, and I'm reading the newspaper, and there's a story in the Miami paper taken from the Orlando Sentinel. And it talked about how this investment that we had just made was validation of the growth and strength of the startup and tech community in Orlando. And I just laughed. I mean, it was a one-off. And there's nothing else there. And the founder is sitting there saying, we think we want to relocate because there's nobody here to work with. But the paper is trying to capitalize on it. It's the same everywhere, guys. We're just going to change it. We're going to make something happen that's really good.
So, Ty Shattuck, who was a previous Startup Grant speaker, I asked him what Buffalo could learn from Silicon Valley, and he kind of said, don't try to become Silicon Valley, your Buffalo become your own Buffalo thing. Do you think Buffalo should imitate Silicon Valley, or do you think we're doing our own thing here?
Well, you're not, you know, we're not, even in New York. I mean, I think we did an analysis. There's 22, we think there's 22 deals for every one we do in New York. And we can't, I mean, we're our little fund, and we're not a big fund, we're a little fund. We're looking at 1,700 deals a year, you know, and all in New York. It's not an imitation. We're not Silicon Valley guys. It's not happening, right? We are who we are. You know, it's like, it's not really even relevant. It's about getting entrepreneurs to be what they are. It's helping each other. We'll go one sec. It's helping each other. It's about clustering. Dig, very important. Z80 Labs, important. Medical core campus, important. We can't have sprawl. If you think about what's happening in Western New York, sprawl's had a very negative effect on Buffalo. Huge. In the regular world. Now think about that in our small little ecosystem of the 100 people here and maybe the few hundred more that are out there. And if we start being all over, we're dead. I think what you find is that this clustering of staying together and helping each other and being able to walk down the hall or walk down the street or go next door to the restaurant that's just reopened again, and seeing your colleagues that are in the business and talking about, oh shit, I need an engineer. You know somebody that's looking for a job, or, you know, or I just tried this and, you know, this worked, and that is what's more important. We're not going to be, you know, maybe we get lucky. We could get a Dell, right? And that's what changed Austin. Michael Dell, this was passionate. He stayed. And what are they, 30, 40, 50,000 people there, and think about the offshoots and what that occurred. And that's what we need to have happen for us. If that happens, it'll change the ecosystem. It'll change the landscape forever. But Until then, it's not about Silicon Valley or New York or Toronto. It's just Buffalo. Great, good entrepreneurs, want to go start a business, passionate, smart. We go and do what we got to do. Sometimes we need to put a development center someplace else because the talent isn't here. Okay, big deal. You know, I grew 2 businesses here. Big. One of them was $1 billion in revenue. Now it's 50 billion. And the other one, Client Logic, we had 6,500 people, a $300 million business. It's good businesses, right? We did it here. Ashok did it here. Others, people have invested. You can do it. You just got to decide I'm going to. And I know that I have obstacles in my way. And now we want to have more of them. We want to help each other. And we really do want to help each other. That's what it's about. We need to go, and my job is to go and get more rich people to say, I'm going to write $25,000 checks and not do, 8 weeks of due diligence to find out everything about the tax return that you wrote in 2001, before they write a check. I mean, I don't need to sound this trivial. I got a call from John Borthwick, who's the founder of BetaWorks. And he calls me, I was 2 weeks ago, and he said to me, we're just doing a $3 million round for dots. We're 15,000 short. We can't close around with data, but you give me the 15 grand. And I said, okay, sure, I'll send it, right? I know John, I know dots, I play the game, right? I don't know anything about the business. But I know these guys are working really hard to build a company. I trust him, I respect him, I write the check. That's what angels are supposed to do. Angels can't sit here and do due diligence for the next 6 years. They'll kill you. Right, and that's my job, that's Dan's job, that's Keith's job, to get that ecosystem to be supportive. You guys then gotta be building businesses that are successful. You had a question?
Yeah, you said you looked at 1,700 deals in New York City and none in Buffalo. I know there's a bunch of startups here, but none of them are meeting the criteria that your company wants to see. I'm just kind of curious what that criteria is that Buffalo isn't meeting.
Well, I wouldn't say it's just Buffalo, by the way. And of those 1,700, we're probably going to do 4, maybe 5. It depends. I don't know. I'm not doing any. I won't do a new deal for at least the next 6 or 8 months because I have 14 companies in my portfolio that I'm on the board of. I can't do any more deals. It's also a good way to get out of it nicely and say, nice, I can't do any deals. So I don't have to do anything. It really is convenient, by the way. The bar is high. I mean, we were discussing this today, this Uber thing, right? Everybody wants to find the next Uber. And we all do, by the way. We love to find the next Uber. But, the bar is high. We are investing as investors in companies that we believe can get to the size and scale that will move the needle for a firm our size. If we can't see our way to a company that's going to be worth $400 or $500 million in 4 or 5 years, and we do our own methodology and we build models and all this stuff, we wouldn't invest. And those guys say, well, it's a low beta, right? It's it's a high risk, a low valuation, not what we want to do. It's just not what we're doing today. It's our thing. So we're a little picky. Like the last deal we just did was a company called Glam Squad. It's kind of we like marketplaces. Totally disruptive. What Glam Squad is they will, instead of having to go to the hairdresser to get your hair cut, or to get a blowout, or a color, or get your nails done. I'm metrosexual, so I can do that. Instead, they'll come to you. Instead of you having to worry about leaving the office, we'll come to the office, we'll come to your house. We'll come if you're going out Saturday night, you want to have somebody there at 6:30, they'll come at 6:30, do all that stuff. And it's very disruptive, and what makes that interesting is that most of these people that do hair actually rent the chair from Capello. And so they're paying, well, now they don't have to pay anybody for the chair. They just have the car, they already have the car. So they got to go to the house and we make the appointments. It's basically Uber, right? And we love that. Now, what do we have? We have the chairman and who really got the thing off the ground was the number 2 guy at Blackstone. Amazing business guy, really talented. The CEO was the CEO of Gilt. She left to go and do this. CFO came from, he was the number 2 guy at Viacom. I mean, really amazing, talented team. And then they had a great engineer, you know, which is sort of the check the box, the 28-year-old engineer who came from 5 years at Google, right? That's a good start. We don't have that, right? So that's harder. So funds like ours, who have the opportunities to do those things, now I'm comparing, you know, the CFO went to Medaille, right? Doesn't mean it's not a good school and they can't be great, but this is now, I have partners who went to Harvard and Princeton and Stanford, and they're looking at, you know, their mentality, and you see what comes your way, and this is what we have to compete with. So that's why what happens in Buffalo, it's harder to get that early capital. It's not hard to get the later capital. Ashok raises money later, Bessemer and Bain. But he had already had validation, right? I guess there was validation by the time they came in. They had no validation when I passed. I wasn't so smart at that one. But that's the difference. That's what we're competing with. That's I'm not sure it's fair, but it's reality. And then those guys there, think about Silicon Valley. Well, he had been at Uber, and he had been at Lyft, and he had been at, you know, at Facebook, and he'd been at Google, and, you know, like, this is these, you know, like, oh, and I worked at Oculus Rift for 3 months, right? So got VR, right? I mean, you're overwhelmed. And that's what they have, because they have that culture. We don't have it, so we have to do the best we can.
All right, Joy, this is the last question that I have, and then we'll open up to more questions for you. And I've asked every Startup Grind speaker the same question. If Buffalo is to succeed, it needs more of what? Fill in the blank.
People in this room, risk takers. You know, one of the things that I say to a lot of people, Dan's heard me say this, I won't invest in people that aren't all in. Now, Z80 is okay because we allow people, if they have a day job, to come and do that. But if we're funding them, we don't allow them a day job. Adrian, I made, you know, we had a hard time with it because we wanted him to quit his day job and do this all in. You got to be all in. And it's critical that you just, that's what it is. And, you know, I give a speech at Columbia Business School. I get to teach a class once a year there. And my slide says, I'm thinking of doing a startup. My comment to that is, you're not doing a startup. Because if you're going to do a startup, you're not thinking about it. You're doing it. And you got to be all in. There is no part-time. You can dabble, no problem. You dabble, I will predict, with an exception of 1%, you will fail. You will fail. You have to just decide I'm doing it. And that's a big risk. But that's who these people are. They're risk takers. Oscar, I don't know how he's been making a living for all these years. He's been doing this all in for quite a few years. I give him all the credit in the world. He perseveres, right? But that's what it takes. Just jump in. And we need more risk takers. And when we have those, yeah, we'll have failures, but we'll have some winners. And the more winners we have, rising tide raises all boats, right? That's what we have to keep doing.
Awesome.
Questions?
It's up to you guys now.
Yes, sir. You got to tell me who you are.
My name is Charles Busan. I just graduated from the University of Buffalo. I currently own a startup of my own. My question for you is, actually I graduated with a psychology degree, and I noticed that you graduated with a political science degree. How has that, one, deterred you from, you know, starting your own company, making it profitable, starting venture capital, doing all that stuff, as well as how has it helped you, and how have you filled in the ground in between? That's not directly business.
Well, I don't think my college degree had much to do with what I'm doing today, to be perfectly honest with you, but it allowed me to meet my wife, who's here now, because we were both involved in politics. So that was worth everything that I did at college. But I don't think it had much to do with anything. And frankly, I thought college was a waste of time, to be perfectly candid with you. And I regret that today, by the way. I didn't take advantage of college. I should have, because I was stupid then. You know, I thought I knew everything. I still think I know everything, but at least I know now I don't. Then I didn't know I didn't. I think, you know, it's all about foundation, right? You got a degree, use it. It's taught you things. It's going to teach you about how to adapt to the changes that are going to be happening in your life. But I don't know that it means a lot. I don't think undergraduate degrees mean a lot in our world anyways. I think they give you an ability to basically get to be 21 years old and then get a job. And I think what happens after that is what matters. I'm a believer in advanced degrees. You know, I believe that makes a difference. But most of my colleagues think it's full. They will tell you, don't go to business school, don't go to law school, don't go to engineering, don't get a master's, don't get a waste of time, just jump in and do it. You jumped in and did it, just go do it. And you know what? Use that UB ecosystem wherever you can. Because in Buffalo, that'll help you. They've got tools and resources. Marnie Levine, is she's still here? I don't know if Marnie's still here. She saw that I saw her, that she's here, she was able to leave. I'm on the board. So oh, there she is. There you are. I remember that. But use UB's tools there. But I don't know that my degree had anything to do with anything when it really comes down to it. Sorry. Wish I'm sure that President UB would like to have a different answer than that. But, you know, and I'm still involved in UB, and I think UB is very important to this community. I think it's foundational to this. It's probably the best opportunity we have to change the future is the University of Buffalo. And I love Canisius and I think the other schools, but UB really is the place that can make a difference. We got, you know, we really can change the entire landscape because of that university. Hopefully we will. Gotta be more questions. Yes.
Hi, I'm Rachel Stern. I'm a JD MBA, so hopefully those degrees are coming.
UB?
Yeah. And I'm also the student assistant at the Center for Entrepreneurial Leadership, where I kind of help recruit students to running their own startups. They'll ask me for advice, you know, oh, how should I do this or how should I do that? I have no idea. I've never done it. I want, you know, eventually I want to have my own company, but what advice do you have to students that want to have their own business but don't even know how to get involved?
Well, the first thing I would do is get some mentors that have done what these kids and these people need advice from, because it's very hard to give advice when you haven't done it yourself. You know, it's not, there's no, like, I gotta be honest with you, there's nothing magical. When we started what's now Ingram Micro, we didn't know anything. I mean, you know, Ronnie came, he had camera stores. I was involved in politics. You know, but we just started working 22-hour days, 7 days a week, and our wives let us do it. And we got in the right place at the right time. For us, it was timing, that first business. With 1982, starting a microcomputer distribution business. I mean, you know, like it was, you had to be dumb to be unsuccessful, to be honest with you. And then you got to be smart enough to capture it and take advantage of it. But there's not, I don't think there's any kind of, you can't go to class and learn about this stuff. You know, you need to get advice from people that have done this, and they'll help you with pitfalls and landmines that you're going to encounter along the way. But the truth of the matter is, you're going to have to go figure it out. And we didn't get a lot of advice from people. It was one of my, I had a big criticism of the business community. I never once, either did Ron, got a phone call from anybody in the business community saying, how can we help you? Never once. I thought it was unbelievable that they didn't pick up the phone and call. You know, here we created more jobs in a 10-year period than any person in Western New York. We created about 4,000 jobs over 10 years. You'd think somebody would call and say, how can we help you? Nobody did. So we just had to figure it out. We made a lot of mistakes. We didn't make a lot of money, certainly in the first business, because we didn't know how to run the business. But we grew it, and sales overcame everything, by the way. We grew, you know, from 0 to $1.08 billion in 6 years. That cures a lot of evils. I mean, it was distribution revenue. I mean, 7% gross margin. But it was still, I mean, you know, it overcame all the, everything, whatever was left behind, man, it was there. We don't have any idea, but sales cures a lot of evils. So that, to me, is the advice that I try to give entrepreneurs. Sell your way out of it. You can't cut startups. You cannot cut your way to success in a startup. You just can't do it.
Also, Rachel, students are free for startup grants, so it's free for startup grant.
Wait, back there, he's got a tie on. He gets precedence.
Dylan Buckles, senior UB student, business administration. Can I on what Rachel and what Michelle asked for. What you kind of said at the end is, in order to start a startup, you have to go all in. As a student being thousands of dollars in debt, working paycheck to paycheck, what would be your advice for somebody like me to take that step to go all in? Or is it sort of, I can't wait until I graduate and I'm out of debt? How does that work?
Well, you're still a student, so it doesn't really, I guess they get different rules.
So what's the different rule then?
Well, you still finish your degree unless you decide to quit. Bill Gates quit, Mark Zuckerberg quit. I mean, these guys, a lot of guys, name you lots of guys that quit in the middle, and they went and worked their startups, and you know, they that was what they chose to do. You're 1,000 in debt. What's the difference if you're 2,000 in debt? Because it isn't going to change much. They can't collect from you anyways. So you might as well just keep at it, you know. And I would just tell you, go for it. If you got the passion, but here's what you can't do. You can't force a startup. You have to have a reason, a belief. Like, I have this unbelievable idea. I get so many people come to me, some of you are in this room, and I rip you apart because you really don't have I mean, you're not passionate, I mean, you don't really believe it. You just, well, this is a good idea. You know, nobody is figured out how to use my iPhone to turn those lights on and off while we're in this room. Well, who cares? There's a light switch there. I don't need an iPad to do iPhone, right? I mean, really, you think the world wants that? I mean, so, well, it's a good idea. Well, how do you make money doing it? Who's going to pay? Well, I don't know. I haven't thought about that. I mean, so you get, it's unbelievable how you get this stuff. If you just better believe in it. You better leave every ounce of atoms and molecules in your body. You better believe in what you're doing, because it is everything. And guys like Dan Penberly and his partner, and guys like my partners, and all the people that do this for a living, they're gonna see through it instantly. But we don't matter. You're doing this to succeed. And if you don't believe it, you're never gonna succeed. You just can't do it. So when you have that idea, do it. Until then, keep the day job. Stay in school, work at M&T Bank, it's okay. But when you get that idea, be ready to go for it. And recognize, you know, we were in a little different position, but when we started what turned out to be Upgrade Corporation America, we didn't get paid for 2.5 years. No, we had enough money to make it through, but we didn't get paid. No, we did something quite interesting. We accrued all of our salaries. So when we raised money, we took the money back. But we didn't get paid. It was just, you know, we were just being a little wise. But seriously, we didn't get paid. It's what it is.
Social commerce is going to be the next big thing. Why do you think that social commerce is not really taking off yet? It's right now only about 30 billion.
Only 30 billion.
Well,
How big is that? How big is
it's a big thing, I'm thinking, you know.
Well, I think social commerce is, you know, the problem is definition, right? The social web is a very interesting and very dynamic instrument that, frankly, it's merging with everything else in the ecosystem. How many people think that, what would you define Facebook as? Somebody, what do you think Facebook is?
Social media.
Any advertiser platform.
Yeah.
See, I think my colleagues, we think it's a utility now. We think it's a utility. That's the way we define it, right? Because so when you talk about social commerce, I mean, you think about everything that happens through the social web. So yes, maybe we end up at Amazon and we place our order there. But is that really where we learned about? When we are going and we go and we get on a plane and go to Miami and we stay at the Delano or we stay at some hotel on the beach, but we learned about it through the social web when we're sitting there seeing somebody that's doing Snapchats or Vines, you know, and we say, oh, this is cool, but you can't just do so. It takes you over to the e-commerce page. Is that the social web? No, because it's blending. And then the fact of the matter is, I'll give you some interesting data. So BuzzFeed. What percentage of our, we're over 230 million uniques this month. Pretty good. We'll do 1 billion video views. Billion video views. Well, we didn't do any video views a year ago. What percentage of our traffic comes from mobile?
65.
I told you the answer. 72% comes from the mobile device. 2 years ago, we had 100 million uniques. Probably maybe less than 2 years ago. What percentage came from mobile? 5. Facebook, what percentage of our traffic comes from Facebook? Thank God it's not, or we would probably not be worth what we're worth. 52% of our traffic comes from Facebook. No concerns, what it is. It's like, and by the way, where do you think that traffic came from before Facebook? Google, right? It's just shifting, because it's a utility. So what I'm saying to you is that as we look at the social web and we look at Uber, people find out about Uber through the social web, and they go on the Uber app and they order their car. So you're seeing this blending, but what's happened is, and I guess this is at the expense of Google, not that Google is hurting, but the social web has overcome now the source of information. What it hasn't done is become the conduit for actually placing an e-commerce order. Will it? Maybe, but does it matter? I don't know. I don't know why it does. I'm not sure it does. But it is still the place that people are actually learning and discovering what they're doing that turns out to be e-commerce other than Google. Anybody have a point of view on that? You have a point of view. Go ahead. Oh, you have a question. Go ahead.
So I work as a systems analyst at Ingram Micro. So I have a question that is a bit past the startup point, and you alluded to it, of growing from $0 to $1 billion in just 6 years. If you could go back, what advice would you have in terms of the ability to lay a foundation for a larger company while you're a smaller company in order to be able to facilitate growth?
Well, if I knew then what I know now, which is obviously I have the benefit of 30 years of getting the Jesus kicked out of me, I would do things quite differently. But would I be any less successful? I don't know. I mean, I don't know that we could create a $1 billion revenue company in 6 years today. You know, I think it was just, we were just dumb and lucky and hungry, and everybody that worked with us had the same attitude, and we had fun, and it worked. I think today I might be too business oriented to do that. I think the thing that we didn't do, and I sat last night with the chairman of a company who's in a startup raise, and we just closed, they just raised $13.5 million today, and I basically said, before we expand any further, I want to tell you, I really think we should slow down, put the brakes, and we need to make sure that we build the infrastructure properly to make sure that we can scale. And what I mean by that is we want to go, it's a consumer app, we want to go market to market to market to market. Let's succeed in the market, let's put in place the tools, let's know the formula, let's understand our CAC, let's understand our LTV, let's understand all the things that are required for us in order to make sure that we know that when we spend $1, that the LTV on that dollar and the cost of acquisition, for those that don't know what CAC is, it's customer acquisition cost, lifetime value is LTV. So when we go and we look at this data, we know that exactly that if we spend $50, that we're going to get X number of customers spending this much money for this long of a time, and that we then know that we can deploy the money anywhere we want because we have a formula that gets there. And I said, don't give me some Excel spreadsheet. Take out your mobile phone right now and show me, because you should be able to have it in real time. Not at the end of the day. Remember, we used to, at the end of the day, at midnight, they would go and they'd poll everything and they give you a report. Why? It should be in real time. When you have that, then we're ready to go and raise real money and go out and expand markets. And that is what I would learn. That's what I learned today. Put that in place while you can. Test the market, validate it, then put that infrastructure in place, then expand.
My name is Joe Neiman, and I'm responsible for stealing Dan out of Z8, so for that I apologize.
Thank you very much.
That's a good thing, I've heard you, and I've heard Brent Wilson make mention of marketplaces and really where your focus is at. what are some marketplaces that excite you that looks like it's ripe for disruption or there's a lot of opportunity?
Well, we're investing in them. Besides Glam Squad, but we're in a few of them. I did one that I'm really excited about. It's called a company called Talkspace, teletherapy. And what it is you know, there's a lot of people that go for therapy. A lot of people need it and don't go. They should go. But a lot of people go for therapy. The problem with therapy is, you know, you gotta go make an appointment. You gotta get the doctor on the phone. You gotta go to the doctor's office when it's convenient. You gotta get out. You know, it's like if the doctor is in Gettsville, you gotta take half hour to get there, wait, go back. You know, it's like 2.5 hours. And by the way, now I'm going on you're going on a. I'm not doing this, by the way, Holly. I'm not. You're going on a date tonight, okay? And you got anxiety, the blind date. Well, the doctor I'm not seeing the doctor till next week. Teletherapy. I can call right now. I can set it up. I can use my mobile phone. I can either do a live chat. I can do, you know, a video. I can do it with audio. I can do anything I want, and I get therapy, real time. We love this business. We think it will completely disrupt the industry. And what we learned is we have 70 therapists today. We have now 12 that have quit their jobs and are doing this full time, and they're averaging so far on an annual basis to make about 80 grand. They made less when they worked in the office. They no longer have the office. They're sitting outside by their pool with their kids who are 2 and 3 and 4 years old, and they're actually giving therapy while they're at home or they're anywhere they want to be. So we love that business. We did a few of these marketplaces, and we think that, you know, obviously Uber and Airbnb are the ones that are defining the categories, but there's a lot of them, and they all have the potential. Just in Talkspace as an example, the founder was the international worldwide creative director for Ogilvy and Mather. Really, I mean, the guy's a marketing guy. It's all about marketing. Everything we do is what our customer acquisition cost is, how long we keep the customer, how much they spend, how long they use the service, the site, that's everything we're doing. We just put the money in. I think we invested in the company in March of last year, and we are now up to, I think we're doing 67 or 68,000 a month in MRR. Not bad for consumer, since the average person pays $49 a month is all it costs. And we've only rolled it out in very small places because we want to put that infrastructure in place. 200, I'll give you this data, 200 customers, our business is worth $500 million. We only need 200,000. I forgot, that's the 200,000 customers in the world, and we will be worth $500 million. That's what's great about marketplaces.
Do you have any thoughts on blockchain technology? I know President Fred Wilson is a pretty big supporter of technology.
He gave me Bitcoins. I still haven't used them. I don't get it. I'll be honest with you, I don't get it. I'm on the regional advisory board of the New York Fed, and every Fed board meeting I go to, I ask these guys, all these economists, you know, these are like, really, these guys are so smart. Can you explain to me what this is? I don't get Bitcoins. Okay, I really don't. To me, it's just another. Maybe it will replace credit cards, I guess, but Apple Pay can replace credit cards too. So to me, it's a bit of an outlier that is. Fred loves it, right? And we argue about it. We argue about a lot of things. I like blue jeans. He likes Google Hangouts. I think he thinks blue. You know, like we just don't agree on a lot of stuff. I wish I was anywhere near as successful as him, but I don't get the Bitcoin thing. But I guarantee it that because I don't get it, it's going to be huge. Because if I buy a stock, it goes down, and if I don't buy it, it goes up. So I'm sure that Bitcoin, you should all buy Bitcoins because I don't get it.
Do you think there's more opportunity for startup looking at consumer social media, or potentially startups targeting commercial enterprise, cloud computing, different technology things?
Well, I'll give you the answer the way I define it. First, that what you're talking about is B2B or B2C. And what you're really talking about is a consumer or a SaaS company, because that's what everything is, unless it's hardware, and I don't touch hardware because the gross margins suck. But honestly, we're probably about 50-50 SaaS. Everybody wants to be a SaaS company. I have a great company that I wanted to be. We had a huge debate in the board. It's called Rebel Mouse, if anybody's seen Rebel Mouse. And Kenny Lehrer and I, on one side of the table, wanted to make a consumer product. And Fred Harmon, runs Oak Ventures, and Eric Hippo, who's our partner, they wanted to make it a SaaS company. And in the end, management decided to make it a SaaS company. And it's okay, that's why there's democracies. But that's what a lot of companies are going through. I can tell you right now, the fastest way to wealth is a consumer product. The fastest way to growth. SaaS companies, it's real simple. I'll give you the math. There's nothing complicated about it. The average SaaS company in 2013 sold for 9.2 times revenue, current revenue. Okay? 9.2 times. If you were growing at between 100 and 200%, if you were growing 30, 40, 50% per year, which is not bad, you're trading at 4 to 6 times. If you are growing as a SaaS company at north of 300%, you're trading between 15 and 20 times multiples of your revenue, annualized revenue. If you are a consumer company, you could have zero revenue and be worth billions of dollars if you have lots of users that are deeply engaged. Pinterest. And you know why Pinterest is so valuable? Besides the fact that obviously they got a huge marketplace. The average person per visit, 19 minutes. 19 minutes. That's what creates the value on Pinterest. 19 minutes per visit. That's amazing. It's amazing. So, consumer, I love it. I primarily am only investing in consumer. I say that, and I've done a bunch of SaaS companies in the last 2 years. And my biggest investment is a company called Work Market, which is a SaaS company. But I really do, the fastest way to success is consumer, but it's expensive and it's big risk. But like I said before, I'm not interested in $50 million exits in the venture business that I do for a living. And what I do at Z80 and what I do as an angel, very different kind of methodology. Then it's like, low bit, let's just figure out, they're not here, Teo's not here. But I sat with the guys today from Crowdbounce and I said, guys, it's okay, let's get to a couple million in revenue. It's good. A company might be worth 10 million, maybe it's worth 15. You've only raised a few $100,000. It's a great exit. It's not a bad exit, right? It's if you raise too much money, I can tell you right now, fair to total blowout, right? They raised too much money at too high of a valuation, they could never get out. The worst thing you can do. But you got big eyes, so it's hard not to do it. I sat with them, $700 million valuation. They wanted to raise $110 million. They asked me my opinion. I said, you guys are insane. I said, you'll do $140 million and lose $50 million this year. You really think you should be doing that? They raised it. Fab just got sold for $30 million. They had raised over $250 million. They sold the company for $30 million. And that was a gift. By the way, I'll bet you it wasn't $30 million. By the way, I'll also bet you that Uber didn't get a $40 billion valuation. Because the guys that put money in got probably a 3 or 4x liquidation preference. So yeah, okay, I'll give you the valuation. I want participating preferred plus 3x. Pick any number you want, because I'm getting the first, if I put in 200 million, I'm getting the first $800 million. I don't care what you sell it for. Low beta. I'm a late stage fund. I'm growth. I'm happy with a 3 or 4x. I just guaranteed it. And you guys felt good because you got a $40 billion valuation. It's a little bit of bullshit. One more question, because I think you guys got things to do.
Yes.
Ty gets over the shirt. Sorry.
You talked about marketing earlier. I'm a recent UB grad. I put on my own shingle, did do financial advising as well. I'm trying to reach other entrepreneurs and kind of get them set up with the most tax advantageous business entity, considering liability, of course, as well as pair that with the tax advantageous private side. What's the best way to reach other entrepreneurs in similar situations?
Can somebody interpret what he just said for me?
Sorry. I'm
trying to find customers for your business?
I'm trying to reach other entrepreneurs, people who start
don't pay taxes, because they don't make any money. They don't need a lot of tax advice, my friend.
Of course, not at the beginning stage, I'm that, I just started my business, I understand I'm not getting a lot of tax now, but at some point, you have to plan for that. So how, how do you reach those businesses that maybe?
You want to know how you help reach those businesses? Volunteer your services to all these entrepreneurs. Do their books for them, give them financial advice, and you know what? Some of them will be jerks and not give you the business later on. That comes with the territory. But a bunch of them will give you the business. And as a result of that, you'll build a practice long term. But you know what? You've got to decide on making an investment in them. I tell this story. I think the most successful lawyer in this town is Jerry Lippis. Not necessarily as a lawyer, but the most successful guy. Jerry Lippis is a very wealthy, successful man. What he did, he took a bunch of his clients early on and said, I'll take equity. You can't afford to pay me. And Jerry became immensely wealthy and immensely successful because they all stayed with him. And Mark IV and Gibraltar and Moog and all these companies became his clients because he did the service for them for nothing, took some equity. And all the other guys in town, billed $600 an hour. They couldn't pay him. They're on the outside looking in. They got much bigger firms, but he's got all the money. Thank you very much. I hope
this is you've given a lot to Buffalo billion. So from the people in this room, here's your $1 billion. It's a $1 billion bill with his face on it. Might be a felony to facing federal crap.
I didn't make it. I don't. But thank you very much.
Thank you, David.